Hello, I'm so glad to be here with you today to share some resources and to celebrate with you moving forward on educations and actions for sustainable development. Let me share my screen and then we'll get started. So today we are going to focus on international trends and actions that you can take and resources for education, for sustainable development, and to create a sustainable future for all. So, yes, my name is Debra Rowe. I've had a number of different positions over time, but that's not what's important. Although be aware that I have been able to teach in a lot of different areas: sustainable development, renewable energies, psychology, technology, business, math. So I can see how you can include sustainable development in all of those topics and more. So I know we only got a few minutes. So I want to talk about the definitions we have for education and actions for sustainable development, and what's happening, what the trends are, and workforce preparation as an important piece of creating an inclusive transition that is just, and ways to create buy-in where people want to do it with you, and how you can accelerate change. And I have tools and resources for you throughout. In fact, I put together a document that you can go to that lists all of the resources I'm talking about today. And that document is at bit.ly, bit.ly/Rowe resources. Rowe is my last name, and then resources, and they're all free. So just write that down, bit.ly/Rowe resources, and you'll be able to access all of these. Now, many of us know the definition of sustainable development: meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. There's another way to define it, which is a shared responsibility, just an opportunity for improving quality of life for all, economically, socially, and environmentally, now and also for future generations. Because when you're educating for a sustainable society, you're empowering people. You're enabling them to develop knowledge, but also values and skills, so they can participate in decisions, so they can take actions that will improve quality of life now without damaging the planet for the future. And this isn't just for whatever they're going to do as a worker, it's also what they're going to do as a consumer, as an investor, where they spend their money, their community members' role that they have, and also as voters, if they can vote. So there are skills needed for SD, which is sustainable development, but these skills employers value as well, so they can help you with your career pathways. There's the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I love the education that's available through this organization, where you get to explore these and understand them in more depth and have impacts on them. They're so important, the goals, because the decisions that we make and that we help others make will create more scarcity and human suffering, or a future of greater abundance, better relationships, and higher quality of life. So for education, in the education area, sustainability is being integrated into legislative advocacy. In other words, policies that schools and individuals within those schools and community organizations connected to those schools advocate for, policies that'll create systemic change, and the core mission and the planning and the curricula, what gets taught, and the research agenda, and helping the public, not just the students, become aware, in operations and facilities and purchasing. I already talked about community partnerships, but also student life, what they experience as they walk around the buildings, and the activities outside of the classroom, and of course, professional development for teachers. So we all have choices, right? You can choose to be a champion for implementing solutions, or you can be somebody who's more, I just want to protect myself. Well, if you want to protect yourself in your job, you really need to learn education and actions for sustainable development so you won't be left behind. Because this is not just an emerging trend, this is an international trend now. And doing nothing is not a good choice. So we're here to help you understand how to take actions. And how can we get that academic buy-in, right? How can we get others to say, yes, I want to do this too, whether they're an educator, an administrator, or a community partner. So you can do a bottom-up approach, right? Work with the people where you are. If you happen to be on the lower end of the organization, you can also do a top-down approach if you're in a position to get your leadership to take a stance on this. But you don't necessarily need both. It's nice if you've got it, but it's not required. So you can start out working with the champions. And there's great literature now on what are the key competencies for sustainability. That's one of the items I've shared with you in the resources list. And so it'll help you to understand that students need to not just have the knowledge of what's happening in our world, because you can doom and gloom them if you just give them the negative knowledge of our issues that we have to address. It's important to also give them the good news, the progress, and to help them think in terms of how can I change systems? How can I change the norms in our society, both in policies and culturally, so that we can get a better future for everybody? Helping them with strategic thinking and with problem solving, and helping them to overcome their disappointment when something doesn't work right, or to just learn from it and move forward. So where does education for sustainable development fit? Oh my goodness, it fits everywhere. And I'm not going to go through all these examples, but hopefully you'll have access to these slides. And they give examples of how you can put sustainable development education into psychology, physics, biology, chemistry, economics. That's just on this page. I actually have run a network for over 20 years of 45 different academic areas, all working on putting sustainable development into their curricula. And you can often teach it along with the core concepts you have to teach anyway. So it fits very well. So I'm going to move on from that slide. You can read more about that later. Another resource for you to take a look at is the Green Learning Network. These were 4 United Nations agencies that came together and gave this site to actually an international group of youth, who then gave it to us to help create a Green Learning Network. So there are resources there, and on your resource doc that I gave you, you can see how to sign up for that. If you're not connected in yet with the International Renewable Energy Agency, they've got wonderful publications, and they've even been working on a free curricula from for 5-year-olds to 18-year-olds on renewable energy technology. That's in that document as well. Everything I'm talking about here is in those documents. So they help you to teach with exciting materials. This is that network I talked about that has all these different associations that are working on sustainability in higher ed. This has been going on for a long time. You can see in 2002, I wrote a chapter in a book about how do you get it onto your required topics so that it's integrated in the curricula for all students. And how do you use a positive futures fair to give visions, because students get doomed and gloomed a lot, and you want to help them see that they can have a positive scenarios for their communities, for their country, and the world. The essential approach with this is to help our students and ourselves become change agents to create a sustainable future. Use our schools and our communities as living labs to help educate the public about what's possible, and using the media to communicate with them, and help people move from feeling apathetic or fearful or just being obedient because they're concerned about their jobs, to being engaged, caring, and that their involvement's effective. So they have a healthy self-concept of I can make a difference in the world. By the way, the skills they need in emotional and interpersonal intelligence for this also helps them with their relationships at home and in their community. And once again, these solutions, these competencies we need for the solutions, they're also valuable in all types of jobs. So one of the resources I have for you is a site called Sustainability Improves Student Learning that STEM disciplines put together, and it includes a self-assessment for students on how they are as a change maker. We have, there's a wonderful group called Epic N that connects communities with schools so that they can do real world problem solving and students can practice being change makers. There's a guide for applied sustainability learning projects that you can access. And then if you need examples of how you can work with your community on real world problem solving and the students get a chance to be change agents, here's just a few slides that you can look at later. I hope you'll have access to this on how to do that. So look, in summary, students need not just learning about sustainable development, but applied learning and to be able to reflect on it, to think about their thinking, think about their actions so they can build a healthy self-concept that includes not just the knowledge, but the skills and the intrinsic motivations to change our systems, change our societies so that we can have a more sustainable future for all. They can be effective change agents and they can go to work at any job and change the organizations from within. Once you have done your own work, and as you're doing that, also think about how to get this institutionalized in your organization so that it's in the promotion standards, in the job descriptions, and new employee materials, in career advising. So there's a little list for you there. And then if you're working on education for green and sustainability jobs, and I hope you are, we need to improve curricula, career guidance. Students need to hear that these career pathways are available, and also help to connect employers to potential employees, help to recruit students into the field, and then help with job placements. And we need better research, right? More research aligned to climate, which is really crucial in terms of the timeline, it's urgent, and also the other sustainable development goals. So you want to focus just not on the jobs that are available, that are posted, but also entrepreneurial opportunities and this idea of being an intrapreneur and making change from within. So I have an article for you on it that I wrote many years ago and keep updating. Once again, all of these resource links are in one document for you, and it will enhance the wonderful learning that's going on in this organization and all of the great mentoring and that's also occurring. So look, I know everybody's busy and you may not feel like you know all this stuff and there's so much stuff to know, but you don't have to learn it all before you start making changes. So make positive change by getting comfortable, by being outside of your comfort zone. Every time we do something new, we're somewhat uncomfortable, right? You don't have to know all the answers. Even as an educator, you can be the guide on the side, not the sage on the stage. You don't have to know everything. Make it inclusive. Problem solve with your students and your community organizations. You have an important role to play. So you have a power to make a difference, and we can choose a more sustainable future. Congratulations on everything you've already done. Even more so, congratulations for all that you will do in the future. That's how you can contact me. Thank you. I have some additional slides for you too that you can take a look at.